The right person doesn't devour your life in the way that the wrong person does. They don't make you guilt. Today is a really exciting day because we are going to be talking about the release of my fourth book, Dear Self. Hello my loves and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in week after week. It means the absolute world to me. Thank you for allowing me to do what I'm doing right now with this channel, and I'm so excited to constantly create new content for you all and just contribute to your healing in some way. So let's get started. So I filmed this video in a way where by the time that it releases, it's going to be in time for the release of the fourth book, which is Dear Self. I'm hoping that it's going to be a day before or on the day so that whoever has bought their copies, they can go through the book with me. Whoever hasn't, they can get a little bit of an idea of what the book is about and what to expect. Before I go into it, can I just show you all how cool my t-shirt is? I got it from my really good friend for my birthday. She bought it for me. I think she did it with this particular brand that they collate gifts for you, gift packages. So you tell them what kind of person you're getting a gift for and they get together a gift bag. I don't know what their name is. I'll link it down below. I'm really sorry because it's not a sponsored post or anything. I just really wanted to wear it. I don't know why my necklace is out, to be honest. Let me just tuck it in. But yeah, I really wanted to wear it and show you all. So yeah. So let's go into Dear Self. Let's talk about this book. Let me show you all what it looks like at the moment. So this is the book right here. This is what it looks like on the inside. So I'm just going to kind of briefly open it for you all. It's obviously the wrong way, but it's filled with chapters and chapters of healing and writing and self-love. It's such a big book. It's 260 pages. I'm so proud of it, and I'm so excited for you all to read this book. This book is split into 4 chapters, okay? So the first chapter is self-love / self-worth. The second chapter is heartbreak. The third chapter is love. And the fourth chapter is healing and well-being. The biggest chapter in this book is self-love. The reason for this is because over the past couple of years, I have definitely steered more towards self-love in my writing. I write a lot about, loving yourself and moving on in your healing journey and just kind of finding yourself on that journey. So the biggest chapter is self-love. I believe it is around 80 pages long.
2,000 years later.
It's around 86 pages long, so I'm so proud of this particular chapter. For everyone who I've given a snippet of this book to, I basically showed everyone how different this book is compared to all my other books. So every single chapter is split into subsections. So not only are there pieces in here, so we've got pieces such as this one here, and then we also have chapters of writing such as this one. So this is where I talk about the topics in more detail, and as you can see, these chapters are very long. I discuss various topics in more detail. So for instance, with the first chapter, there's a section called How Do You Find Yourself? And this is inspired by my piece, Find Yourself. So in this particular piece, I write about how to do things. You know what? I'm going to read it to you. So this particular piece is called Find Yourself, and I'm going to read it to you to give you an idea of why I wrote another small little subsection on it to explain it further. And what I'm going to do is, as I'm reading it, you will see it on the side over here, so you'll be able to see a photo of this particular piece and kind of follow through if it's, big. If not, then buy the book. So I'm going to read a small little snippet from this piece just to give you an idea of what this piece is about and what to expect. Find yourself in your soft reflection in the mirror. Find yourself in the streak of sunlight that sneaks in through the thin gaps between your blinds, and in the way you smile when it traces the lines across your lips, your face, and settles on your closed eyelids. welcoming you to a new morning. Find yourself in the conversations with your friends where you bounce from coffee to lunch to the way you felt when you sunk your feet into the white sand beach of a foreign country thousands of miles from home, and how it would feel to stand under the Sistine Chapel, pushing your head back and glancing up at a ceiling bathed in art and history that existed thousands of years before you. Find yourself in uncertainty, in not knowing where you're headed, but with a desire to take adventures along the way. Find yourself in taking risks, in giving up, letting go and starting all over again. Find yourself in welcoming growth and being humble. Find yourself in being kind. So this particular piece goes over 2 pages. So it starts off here and it goes over here, okay? So I'm not going to go into too much detail with the piece itself because it is quite a long piece. However, I'm going to talk about the piece and why I felt like it was a good idea to write a chapter on it. So right next to the piece, I wrote a chapter which said, what does find yourself truly mean? Now, the reason why I did this is because I felt like this piece was a little bit too ambiguous. It was too, what does find yourself mean? What does a process of finding yourself look like? How do you find yourself? What are we looking for? What are we trying to find? And I felt like all of these questions would come up when I wrote this piece and when people would read it. And so I wanted to write a little chapter next to it to explain what it means to find yourself. Now, I've done this for a few of the pieces in the book. So that's why we've got these tiny chapters of lots of writing. So there's this particular one which is called Moving On, What I Learned and the Lessons That I Want to Share with You. And then we've got a couple of pages of just my learning from moving on, how I moved on, what I did, what I learned, how I think this could benefit you in some way. And the purpose of all of these chapters was to have more in-depth conversations with you, just like the purpose of this video is, just like the purpose of this channel is to have more in-depth conversations with you about those particular topics, because I don't just want to write those topics. I don't just want to write those pieces and expect you to read them and understand exactly what I'm talking about. I want you to understand them in the way that I understand them, or at least interpret them in your way, but kind of understand where my interpretation came from and where, my thought came from when I was writing these pieces. This book is a lot more personal compared to all my other books, because with the other books, I could write generally about those themes and about those ideas, but with this book I actually talk about my personal experiences and what I've gone through. So I talk a lot about how whether your self-worth is affected by whether or not you hurt someone. And I spoke about my own experience of when I've hurt someone, and this section is titled The Time I Broke the Heart of Someone I Deeply Cared About. I discuss my own experiences in this, so I discuss, what happened. I don't give any names because obviously I don't want to make someone else vulnerable or exposed in this book, but I speak about exactly what I went through, how I came through from it, and how that impacted my self-worth, how that impacted how I felt about myself, how I saw myself, and all these various things that when you hurt someone you truly feel in that moment. So the next chapter that I want to talk to you about is heartbreak and moving on. So with this particular chapter, what I had in mind was not just to talk about all the many ways that, heartbreak hurts you, because we discussed that a lot in detail as it is. If you read my previous books, I talk a lot about heartbreak, I talk a lot about healing and moving on. With this book, I wanted to talk about the positive consequences of heartbreak. I know that it sounds weird to say, I know that it feels weird to hear that good things can come out of breaking your heart, but I truly believe that, and that's what this particular chapter is about. It's about finding the good and the bad. It's not about, pining over the person that you lost. It's not about getting upset over them. It's not about, missing them, although there are obviously aspects of how all those things fall into your healing journey in here, but most of it is to feed into this idea that heartbreaks could sometimes be the most amazing things that ever happened to you. The people who hurt you could be blessings in disguise. You just have to see it. So I'm going to read a particular snippet from this chapter to give you an idea of what I mean when I'm talking about heartbreak and the remedial the remedial qualities of this particular experience. If our hearts didn't break, we wouldn't realize that we were denying ourselves of self-love. If our hearts didn't break, we wouldn't know that we were settling for less than what we deserved. If our hearts didn't break, we wouldn't come to terms with whether we truly loved someone or whether it was merely an infatuation. If our hearts didn't break, we wouldn't be able to distinguish between the love that we want and the love that we're entitled to, and how sometimes they overlap but often they don't. And more often than not, the love that is meant for us is the one that will bring the most amount of positivity in our lives and never that much discomfort. So in this particular chapter, I talk about my own experiences. I go into detail about them. I haven't spoken about them in that much detail before, so you're going to learn more about what my experience was like, how I came through from it, what I learned, and all those good things. So one of the biggest lessons that I learned from experiencing heartbreak is that love changes over time. And I use this, I play with this idea of contingency and temporality to explain how, since nothing stays the same, how could love possibly stay the same? It's not possible for it to. And that's what I want to shed light on in this particular chapter. The next chapter that I want to talk to you all about is love. So as you can see, most of the book is self-love and moving on from heartbreak. Now the reason being is because it's the heartbreak section is a lot more to do with healing and moving on, as opposed to experiencing the pain and being sad over it, because I talk a lot about that in my previous books, but in this particular book I wanted to make sure that I am contributing positive ideas and positive lessons for you to take forward, and to not pine over people who are no longer in your lives, and to talk about my own experiences and what I learned so I could help you with your experiences and how you could come through from it. So with love, obviously, normally I don't really have much good to say. However, so many things have happened in my life since my, previous books. So I've got a better understanding of how to write about this particular chapter and to talk about what, with love, right? I've in the past romanticized it a lot, okay? I have spoken a lot about how beautiful it is and how calming it is and how wonderful it is. But in this book, I talk about how realistically healthy it is. Now, when I say that, I mean that love is not this, romantic idea where everything is perfect and nothing is ever going to go wrong, because that is not how relationships work. Instead, I talk about how a healthy relationship is one where there's a variety of disagreements and difficulties and hurdles, but that doesn't mean that the love isn't real and the love isn't beautiful. So I talk a lot about realistic love, shed away this idea of romantic love or romanticizing love, because realistic love is still romantic, but it's not romanticized in the way that, movies and songs and so on paint it. So I'm going to talk about I'm going to read a little bit of a snippet from this particular chapter just to give you guys an idea of what kind of content I share in this chapter. The right person doesn't devour your life in the way that the wrong person does. They don't make you guilt. Sorry about that, the embarrassing time when you can't read your own book. They don't guilt trip you when you put your needs first. In fact, they push you to make decisions that prioritize your well-being, because the right person knows how unfair you've been with yourself in the past. The right person realizes that you've given more to others than you've received. This is why they want you to expend your energy on your own needs without putting any pressure on you to give large chunks of your time to them. The right person gives you as much as they can without asking for the same from you. At least not until you can and are ready for it. So as much as I talk about the right person in this particular chapter, I talk more about being the right person for yourself. So I end this chapter by saying that, okay, maybe one day you'll meet the right person, maybe they will be everything that you've ever wanted, maybe they won't, but at the end of it, you need to be the right person for yourself, and you need to prioritize yourself and your own needs in order to be happy in your life, because you don't know what the right person looks like. You don't know whether there even is a right person. So rather than waiting for the right person to arrive, be the right person for yourself. The last and my most favourite chapter of the whole book is healing and well-being. You all know how much I love talking about healing. So a lot of the content, the reason why this chapter is not as long as the others is because a lot of it is actually in self-love and self-worth. So when I was writing this book and trying to format it, a lot of the stuff that I write about healing can be put into self-love and self-worth. So I thought it would be better to put it over there. However, this whole book essentially is about healing from a variety of different things and experiences. But yeah, so I love talking about healing, and the biggest thing that I can say to you all is that it's a long, life-altering journey, and it completely changes your life forever. It's a fluctuating journey. There's highs and lows. It's not steady. It's not predictable. It's nothing where you have a finish line where you feel like, okay, I'm at the end now and I've finally healed. Yes, you will get to a point where your past won't affect you as much. Yes, you will reach a curve in your life where you will smile and laugh, and that initial experience where you started your healing from won't be anything more than a memory, a small image that just flickers and disappears into thin air. But it doesn't mean that your healing is over, because we heal from a variety of different experiences in our lives. We have various different healing journeys, and that's the purpose of this particular chapter. So I'm going to read a snippet from it for you. As I said, this chapter also is writing, and then we've got pieces in here. So we've got like individual pieces, which you can see. So I'm going to read a snippet from this for you. The purpose of healing isn't for it to do a spring clean of all your past trauma and transform you into the person you were before you went through that awful chapter in your life. Because if that's what healing was going to do, then the good chapters would vanish into thin air along with the bad. So this is just a small snippet of what the chapter on healing looks like. I'm so excited for you all to have this book in your hands and read all this beautiful content that I have written for you all. This is the most precious book to me. I am so proud of it. I'm so excited about it. And hopefully, I think the release date is tomorrow, but whenever it is, it's going to be, close to this video. So hopefully you have the book. If not, go out and buy it. Thank you so much for watching today's video. It means so much to me that you tune in every week with your love, support and your kindness. If you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe, and let me know what you think. So yeah, have a lovely week everyone. See you next week.